Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Gold Standard Podcast. As always, I'm joined by my amazing co-hosts, Kate Weimer and Brianna Snyder, myself, Brandon Dizwankowski, and we are joined by Dr. Ria today. Hi.
Hi, everyone.
We are so excited to have you for your story, for everything you've accomplished, and honestly, I'd just like to jump into it and kind of ask you, can you share some of your story with us?
Yes, of course. Let's get started. So I am Dr. Ria. I started in the field because my little sister has autism, and from a young age, I knew that I wanted to work with individuals in that population and serve them, serve their families, the parents, and everything. So I learned from a young age that that's what I wanted to do. And I jumped right in. I went in psychology, and then I got my minor in child advocacy. And actually, I thought I was headed for occupational therapy, but my professor knew me, and she's like, "You would be perfect for this new field called behavior analysis." So I looked into it, got into Lindenwood University, and I've been moving ever since. I never stopped, and I got my doctorate in healthcare administration, educational leadership, so that I could better serve our communities and staff members, BCBAs, BCABAs, just like the whole 9 yards. So that's kind of the gist of it.
And you said something, and we kind of have like this reoccurring theme of nobody starts in the field. We all kind of fall into it. So, we all have these different paths that we're ideally set on, and then we discover ABA, and we're like, well, let me give this a try. I wonder if I'm fit for it. So, what was the message that they gave you that they were like, oh, maybe occupational isn't your thing?
Well, I'll be honest, we're in the, it's finals week. We're ready to be done. And I was not focused. I was so focused on my finals and things. I wasn't even really focused on, the next step, to be honest. But we were in such a it was a small Christian-based college called Covert Stockton I said University, Covert Stockton College. They're gonna be a university, I think soon. I'm not sure, but so my teachers, they really knew us. They really knew the students, and they knew like our personality. And so she was like, you know what? I really think this is where you would fit best. She's like, even with your personality, with how you talk to people, with your mannerisms, the softness of your voice, the tone of your voice. She was like, because with OT, you need to pass the GPA first. With this particular behavior analysis program, we did need to take the GRE, yeah, the GRE exam, and I didn't need to take that. And I was so flustered with trying to make sure I finish everything that I was had to finish with my bachelor's, that I was like, okay, well, that seems right now, that seems perfect. I said I've been doing these things with my family for a long time. And that's what she was kind of talking to me about. And so the message was that you have to have you have to really be the right fit for this field. And you really have to be passionate about it to really be able to serve the clients that we serve. And I think that's what she saw in me.
Yeah.
And I think that's great that you have that perspective. And I know when, we've talked before, you said that parent training is, a big part of what you do. So how might your approach to parent training differ from, some other things that maybe you've seen in the field? Because I know you have, your own niche within the field too.
Yes, of course. I love parent trainings. I feel like I've had parents forever, even since I was a little girl, and they listen to me, I feel like now. And they ask me for advice. And so when I come to parents, I really think I have a level of compassion for them, especially because a lot of times we're asking them to do a bunch of stuff that, they're not really used to, like taking data and potty training. We stick on that really hard with parents. And so I feel like I have a level of compassion for them when it comes to them getting the things that we need for the clients, and having that more family oriented and coaching approach. More so it's like, oh, this is what you need to do, this and that, in order to change your child's behavior. But no, it's like, hey, let's talk through this. let's see how we can apply this in your everyday schedule. A lot of our parents have more than one kid, so they can't just do every single, they can't do it the way we would be able to do it in that environment. We need to make it practical for their everyday lives. And so that's kind of what when I use the coaching approach.
Yeah. And you also have a very big background in coaching and leading and leadership. How did you kind of find your niche in that?
Ooh, I would say that started best. I would say it mostly started. Well, that's a good question. Okay, so I'm the person in my family everyone calls me for advice. And actually my name Monica means advisor. And my mom always tells me that. And so they always have called me my friends, family for advice. So I feel like I've been doing it like off the record and I've just been that person and had that gift all my life. But when in a professional setting, I would say I really started to gain those skills in my doctorate program when was learning a lot about leadership and how to apply it. It was very practical. So um, I was able to practice that a lot with my colleagues, with the people in my cohort, and also we did one-on-one meetings with my professor. So she's a really big mentor of mine, and I would say that's when those skills really developed in a more professional lens.
Yeah. And it's a really strong skill set to have, because you could be a great coachee, but not everyone can always be a great coach. So to have that skill set to know what you're what you're giving out that advice and you're confident about it, it's so powerful to have.
And I know Brandon and Brianna had the opportunity to kind of touch base with you a little bit before, so they had filled me in later on, and they informed me that you do a lot of your coaching in Bible-based ABA. So I personally would like to hear more about that and hear what that looks like and how you integrate that culture into ABA therapy.
Yes, of course. That's a good question. It all started, I would say it was in the process of studying for my exam. I was studying for boards, and I kind of was in this period where I couldn't hang out with my friends and with my family, as much as I usually would. I had to really stay focused. And during that time, I was isolated a lot because I'm like, okay, I'm focused on studying. This is what I have to do in order to pass this big test. And during that time, though, I would make time to, listen to sermons and read the Bible and go to church during that time when I was studying. So I found that after I passed and I started, reading the Bible for my own personal growth, I'm like, wow, these are just a bunch of behavior strategies. And so I read the Bible as if it's really a textbook now, and my brain can break it down. Into those principles and strategies for the clients that I serve. And it really helped with my spiritual growth. And I believe it is helping my clients with their spiritual growth as I am able to make it practical. Because I think the Bible is scary just because it's a huge textbook. It's like our ABA book. It's huge. It's scary. It's like I can't read through all of that, but I think when you come with an approach of like, hey, let's break it down. It's just like our terminology, how we have to break it down with our parents, that we're serving so that they can understand and our staff members. And so I feel like that's kind of where I got the idea of the coaching approach with Bible-based ABA.
Do you have a favorite verse that you kind of fall back on when implementing coaching? I feel like that's a hard question because, like you had said, it's a big, scary book.
A lot of verses.
Yes, I think there's a verse, Psalm 23, and it says, oh goodness, now I'm gonna have to look it up. I'm just
Really putting you on the spot here.
but I know the verse, but I know yeah, you caught me off guard with that question. Um, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. And it says, He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. So, like, basically, He's leading me. I know that there's no mistakes that I can make that aren't accounted for in my overall plan. And that's what really relaxes me if I ever like get anxious about things, because I know we're BCBAs and RBTs and we're in this field and there's always something for us to do. So when I get overwhelmed, I'll just let it play on my phone app, on the Holy Bible app, and it'll play out loud. And it's like, okay, I don't need to want for anything. Everything's fine. This is just a part of the plan, the process. So,
Right.
I was going to say, I love that connection because we bring that up a lot here. As a BCBA, you're kind of looked to as like the superhero who's going to swoop in and solve all of these problems and snap your fingers or wave your magic wand, and then all these problems are going to go away. And that's a big pressure for somebody, especially for somebody who's just stepping foot into the field or just past their boards, like you had said. So to kind of have that to fall back on and say, there's no mistake too big that I can make, that means that I won't get to the destination that is meant for me. And even when making mistakes, we're not supposed to be perfect. And in those mistakes comes growth. So I think that's like a really beautiful passage to link coaching and just having faith and acting on your morals and ethical values, and everything will be okay and come to.
Yeah, because it is very interlaced. As Kate just said, like it is almost moral based at that point where you can connect the two, which I guess kind of leads me to my next question is when you are dealing with other coworkers or families that may not be as open to it, how do you kind of bridge that gap?
yes, that's a really good question. So usually I bridge the gap by going back to basic morals and breaking down. So, there's these strong commandments in the Bible, like thou shalt not lie. So in relation to a professional setting, hey, we're honest. We're gonna be practicing honesty. We're gonna be practicing integrity. So basically, that would just be a form of breaking down the Bible into terms that align better with the professional setting. And that's usually I don't practice it. Well, I mean, it's who I am, so I do practice it, but like, you know what I mean? I don't talk to parents and I'm not bringing up the Bible when I'm having a parent meeting, like in a company within a company that I'm working for. But I do practice those basic values like the honesty, integrity, being open communication, having open communication and communicating in a way that is effective and not the opposite of empowering, basically. So we want to be empowering when we're talking, when we're teaching and working with everyone. And I think that the Bible lays a really good foundation for that.
Yeah.
And I think that's great, like the communication piece. Like I'm even thinking now, we do a lot of school district based consultation, and that's always the biggest barrier or the biggest breakdown is the communication. And it's like, oh well, I don't know, like you said you were going to do this, or no one's talking to anyone. So it's like once you get everyone on the same page, then we're able to be effective in those rooms and really start to make that change. I did even want to bring up, like we were talking about before, like making mistakes and things like that. Even, when we're working with trainees in supervision. I met with a trainee a couple weeks ago, and she's newer. She's just starting her hours, and we talked about, different supervision assignments and different ways that we can start to shape her skill set. And her first question was, well, what if I make a mistake? I was like, that's great. That's what you're supposed to do. This is that time. These are those training opportunities where you learn from those mistakes. And there's that growth like Kate was talking about before. And I think it helps ease people's minds when they're like, okay, like this, we can do this, and mistakes are okay.
I was going to touch on that. I think that a lot of us in this field are like have more of a type A personality, and like we are perfectionists, and a lot of the clients that I serve are we're trying to get out of perfectionism and thing that this idea that we have to be perfect. And when I go back to the Bible with using the Bible based ABA, it's like, hey, we're not perfect. There's no condemnation for those who are, we're trying to do we're trying to do good work. We are doing good work in this field every day. We have the heart for it. You have to have the heart for it to do it long term. This is not that type of job you can just fake it till you make it.
You get called out real quick.
So with you having good intentions, I'm like, there's no, you don't have to feel so guilty. So like you have to come in and be this robot and this perfect person. And when you're training those staff members and those RBTs and people that are new in the field, that's oftentimes what I get. I get a lot of anxiety and like, oh, I was afraid I wasn't gonna do this right. And it's like, hey, it's okay. I've been there. It's not you can't do anything to where, you're not going to get fired for making a mistake. We're just going to be open and honest about it and we're going to work through it. And we have to constantly encourage. I feel like encouragement is a part of our, like, they should have taught us that in school, like how to encourage people in our field, because I think that's a big part of supervision, honestly. It's like half the session.
I think it's a big part of the field too. We didn't get here by making every plan perfect or by doing everything right. We made a lot of mistakes to get to where we are in the field. And, we're still growing and we're still learning. I made 4 mistakes today alone, and I've been in this field for 10 years. It's natural and it happens. And I'm happy to make those mistakes because then I can learn from them, do better, and grow. Without those mistakes, you can't grow. You're always going to stay stagnant. You're always going to think that, this is the best that I've done and this is the best that I could do. And that's it. And that's really not the case.
And I think that falls on a good supervisor, right? Is setting that safe space. And like Brianna had said, letting them know, like, it's okay to mess up. Like, I'm here to show you how to do this. I can model it for you. I want to see you run the plan. I'm going to provide you with feedback, but just expect that, because in order to, like I had said earlier, to grow, you're going to get some of that feedback. And it may be a little bit uncomfortable because who likes making mistakes? You know what I mean? But it's okay, because within that mistake, you'll be able to level up your skill set. But it definitely, I couldn't agree with you more. It's a labor of love, 100%.
Something else too, which I think is so interesting, and like you said, they should really teach us some of these skills in grad school when we're going for our BCBA. Because even like you touched on before with, leadership and coaching, you said that you didn't really start to hone in on those skills until you were getting your doctorate. So at that point, you had already gone through a BCBA program, right? Okay. So it's so interesting that you got those skills, but it took you getting a PhD to be able to kind of add some of those skills to your toolbox too.
Yeah, and I will say I feel I so many there are some companies in the field, and I think that we've all might have experienced it, that like where you get burnout based on the culture of the company. And it was almost like I didn't have a space to encourage others. And that sounds so horrible, but that's really what it was until I got into that doctorate program, and I was learning how to do it as a leader and how to do it effectively and how to have those difficult conversations in an appropriate way. And so, yeah, I feel like before that, I probably didn't know how to approach it. And I was, still a newer BCBA. So I'm like, hey, what is okay? What's not okay? Can I have these soft skills when we're such a, scientific based field? Like, are these soft skills even welcome? And that's what I was, in the beginning, those were thoughts that I had. Like, is it welcome in this community?
Yeah. And I'd argue that soft skills are probably one of the most important skills that you can have in this field. You could be one of the greatest clinicians on the planet, but without being able to speak with kindness, encouragement, and compassion, your words aren't going to travel. Your plan isn't going to be as effective. Your feedback isn't going to be as well received if you don't manage it with those soft skills to kind of balance everything out.
Yeah.
To take a step back, I'd like to ask, what connection did you make between your graduate program and your doctorate program when you were like, this is an aha moment? This is what I need to start implementing. I haven't been doing this, but this is why I haven't been doing this, like making all of those connections.
Yeah, I would say it has to do with the community of the school. So when I at Lindenwood, COVID hit us in the middle of our program. So I'm sure that greatly affected, all my supervision experiences during that time. They were very, okay, let's get this done. And at that point, I started paying for supervision as well. And so I didn't really know the supervisors that were supervising me. And I was just trying to get done because we really got hit with the COVID. And so we went from all in person to all virtual. And so it created within us a community in the cohort members, and we leaned more on each other than on our teachers and professors to teach us. And it was really beautiful because I'm sure you all have heard of Kelly Bird, and she was my cohort member. So that's how we have been able to build things that we're building now and lean on each other. And so the connection with my doctor's program is I was looking for something small and Christian based, just like my undergrad, because I had a really good experience there. So I was like, let me see if there's any doctor's programs that are kind of similar or might have those similar values. And I found one in Nebraska, and I loved it. And the teachers super supportive. I could text them. They were always there, and they're still mentoring me to this day. And it was, a cohort. It was probably like towards the end. It was probably like 3 or 4 people that with were a teacher there. So I think that was the aha moment when you really get poured into by those mentors and those leaders that you look up to that are teaching you. Um, I think that made a huge difference.
Yeah, definitely being able to compare it to something. I'm sure we've all had somebody that we've looked to up to at some point, and then later on down the line had another mentor or coach, and then looked back and was like, wow, the level of support is just unmatched. You know what I mean? So I definitely understand that. You only know as much as you know. So having that secondary comparison when entering your doctorate program and seeing what a real support looks like and kind of highlights your own behavior and how you can match their unwavering support moving forward with your supervisees, like that's such an awesome experience to be able to have, and in such a small cohort too, because I did have a small cohort as well going through my master's program, and I know exactly what you're talking about, being able to like lean on people and have that support group, not just for like studying purposes, but from like a mental health standpoint too, just being like, oh, I'm not the only person falling apart at this point in time.
Yeah, it's like that transition. I feel like a lot of those mentors help with you. You're transitioning to a whole nother level of expertise, and there's things that, there's different things that we're gonna have to do, to uphold our certifications and all, you have to know how to dress at conferences. It's like a life-changing experience when you're going through school, and people don't talk about that. And that coaching really goes back into it because that's what those professors and our mentors were really doing with us, is like coaching us through like, hey, it's okay when you're going through I feel like I'm going through like a midlife crisis right now because I have all this stuff do, and I'm trying to get a new job and this and that. But it's like, hey, this is normal. These are normal emotions, and it's because you're transitioning to the next level. Yeah.
Yeah. And knowing everything you know now and the incredible coach that you are, do you notice a common like falling point or a struggle that a lot of your coachees or even just coworkers or people in the field have that you've seen?
Ooh. I would say honestly, what I see the most is that perfectionism. I see that so much with the people that I'm just around. Even my bosses could be, I can see it in them. I can see it in the people that I'm supervising. I can see it in even parents that I'm working with. And it's really tough to break because it's like you have to change your perspective almost of like, hey, this is still going to be okay. My child is going to be okay. The client is going to be okay. they're not looking for perfection. And I think a lot of us who are working in the field, we want to model, a lot of things that we're teaching, but it doesn't have to be perfect. Okay, being authentic is really important in our field, and I appreciate when I get to see that on LinkedIn, especially through and that's probably what drew me to the podcast with Brett, is I'm like, wow, he's super like real, he's being real about some certain things. He's been real about the struggles of owning a business, and I think that really attracts people when people are authentic, because we meet so many people that just aren't, and they're afraid to be. It's not like I don't blame them, but they're afraid to be, because like, oh, if I admit these mistakes, how are others going to view me?
Right.
I think that's where Brett comes in, and he's an awesome support that way. Is he wants you to be able to learn, and it's like, look at my mistakes and learn from my mistakes, so you don't have to carry those troubles, essentially, which I think is amazing. And like you had said, like there's not a lot of people out there will say like, hey, I screwed up here, here, and here. Don't do that. You know what I mean? Make better decisions. But with that being said, I'm sure you and Brett connected on many levels, but as we all know, you are an entrepreneur as well. So can you tell us a little bit more about some of those?
Yes, so I have my company called Ria's Relational Resolutions, and that is my Christian life coaching company, as well as that's where I practice Bible-based ABA with my clients that I coach. And that is very new. So I have a couple clients, but I love it. It doesn't feel like work. Anyone can do it. It's through via phone call. We could do video, and I really send those resources to them, and we break down the Bible for their spiritual growth, and whatever areas that they want to grow in. It's very flexible, very open. Um, Another venture that I am doing is the Dubai experience trip. I saw this, and I connected with someone at it was a conference in DC called Black Health Connect. And so it was just a bunch of professionals getting together. They had panels. It was kind of like our ABA conferences. And me and Kelly went, and I connected with someone that was connected with the Dubai experience. And I was like, man, how many times have we, as in this field, got together for fun? Like, not not in an educational way, not a conference, not for CEUs. Like, how many of us have done that? And I was getting over like my hump with burnout. I was just getting over that. It was pretty recent, honestly, my hump of burnout. So I was getting over that, and I'm like, man, I deserve a trip. And I'm like, I deserve to enjoy the luxuries of life. And it wasn't expensive. It's only 7 days. I'm like, I feel like BCBAs and like healthcare providers, RBTs, any educational professionals, I feel like we can give ourselves 7 days. And I think that's what piques my interest the most, because sometimes trips are too long, and I'm like, okay, maybe this isn't reasonable for someone in our when we're serving so many people. I don't want us to feel overwhelmed when we get back or when we're planning for it. But I'm like, man, this is just a 7 day trip. And I'm like, let's go for it. So I partnered with them, and I'm like, let's get all of us down there and let's have a blast. And I'm like, thinking about it, that's how business, like real business relationships, will probably be made. They might not be made in that setting, but you're going to connect with people, and you could in the future create those relationships and just have that sense of community. I think that's what I love so much about our field, is we are really a community, and I want us to get to know each other outside of our businesses and outside of our specialties and our skills. I want us to get to know each other as people, and this trip is going to allow that. I mean, they have everything like desert safaris we have. There's going to be a city tour going on. We can also go off and do our own thing. I was thinking like getting some girlies together. There's like the flying dress you could do in the desert
Very cool.
where they would
So
take professional photos.
So for those who are like listening and getting caught up to speed, Dr. Rita is hosting this BCBA trip to Dubai. And no, it's not for CEUs. No, it's not for a conference event.
No CEUs.
It's strictly for BCBAs who just want to go out there and have a good time for 7 days. With that being said, what made you pick Dubai?
Honestly, when I saw Dubai was so this trip, actually, I could have hosted it with three. There's a London one, a Hawaii one, and a Dubai one. When I saw the Dubai one, I was like, man, I feel like Dubai just gives more like luxury, like upscale, like, rooftops and all of these cute pictures. I'm like, how many people have really been there too? I'm like, I don't know how many people have really been to Dubai. I think that's not somewhere that everyone might think of going. And so I thought of really luxury was probably why I picked it. I'm like, it's giving luxury vibes. It's giving like, we're professionals, but we still can be cute, you know. That's kind of the vibes I was getting.
We love a good photo op.
I know. I'm kind of getting a little bit of FOMO over here, but for everybody listening, when is this trip taking place?
Yeah, so this trip is in 2025, April 10th through the 19th. Um, it is in the link. The link is in my bio. I probably put it in my LinkedIn bio too, but it's in my Instagram bio. And I'll put it in my LinkedIn bio as well and keep posting about it. There's going to be Zoom meetings prior to for all the information. I will be posting videos and things for information. We're also going to get text threads going on, especially with my group, since I feel like I'm hosting this. I want to make sure everyone has a good time. I want to make sure everyone feels comfortable with where we're going. I know I am, and with a large group of us, we can fly from DC to Dubai as a straight shot. It's no, nonstops. You don't have to do it that way if you feel comfortable traveling. We just meet you at the airport. The hotel is actually 10 minutes away from the airport, so I'll definitely like wait for everyone. Um, Make sure everyone gets to the hotel safely, and we could, get our plans in order prior to that. So I know to Dubai, it's straight shot from DC and New York. So you can do either DC or the New York airport.
I love this
But yeah.
initiative. I really do. What do you hope that BCBAs take away from this trip?
Ooh, I hope that they take away that it's okay to take a break. I think that we struggle with taking a break because of what we do. And I think a lot of healthcare professionals and educators feel the same way because of the people and the clients that we're serving. We're such a part of, and we're always working on progress, right? So we're such a part of their progress and these plans we wrote. But ultimately, we cannot pour into the people that we serve to our best capacity unless we're getting poured into, and unless we have that time to ourselves, that time to have fun. And that experience, I think, bringing back that experience with our clients and with the people we work with is going to be empowering for them to know, like, hey, even to parents, like, hey, it's okay if I take a trip. It's okay if I can take a break, or if I take some time to myself or get to explore the world for a little bit. And I think that's what I want us to take away from that. It's like, hey, it's okay to get yourself poured into so that you can be a better BCBA ultimately.
Yeah, and to kind of tie way back to even the Bible, there are, and correct me if I'm wrong, a lot of verses about how to get what you need and have someone be pouring into you. So it's you said something a lot earlier, and it was like the perception. So like how do people perceive you versus I think the Bible is a lot of like how do you perceive yourself? How do you love yourself?
I
So
think yeah, and that's a really good point. I think of so many of us are worried about, how others feel about us, but in reality, so a man thinketh, so he is. If you love yourself, you're going to attract people that love you, and you're going to be able to love them, and everything's going to be great. Like if you feel if you feel confident, you're going to attract people that are confident in you, that like believe in you, that are going to help support you and help you grow. And I think that's a really good point. Yeah, the Bible, it pours into us so that we can pour into others. And I believe this trip is really, we're just going to get together and get to pour into each other as BCBAs and get to learn and I mean, we're still going to be learning, no CEUs involved, but we're going to be learning each other and learning the community. So,
And I know BDA is a huge advocate for that. It's if you can't fill your own bucket and feel good about yourself and your family's not taken care of, how can you come to work and be the best clinician you can be if you don't feel that your needs are met? So, like I said, I really love this initiative of filling your own bucket and taking some time off so you can come back and be the best clinician you can be.
Right, and actually feel refreshed. Like sometimes coming back from a conference, it's like you're still in ABA mode all the time, and yeah, you're learning, you're connecting, but it's fun, but it never feels like right. It's not time off, and it's not. Maybe for some people it is, but it doesn't always feel like you're refreshed when you return from those trips because then you're going right back into more ABA mode.
I definitely think there's a difference between sitting in a hour lecture for one supervision CEU versus standing on top of a Dubai building getting the photo taken of you. So I'm just going to say there's a slight tip in the scale.
I agree. And oftentimes from conferences, I feel drained. I'll say I love them and I love connecting, but it's like so many things packed into one, right? We're trying to learn through the whole day. We're learning, and then after that, we want to connect with all these people that we usually don't have access to. We usually can't talk to in person, and then after that, it's like two or 3 day conference. You're like, man, I need like a day to just chill and relax. But I think Dubai is going to give us the opportunity to have everything we want. Like, I'm like, it's going to be a dream come true. Photos taken. I'm big on the pictures and sharing this. And I think it's going to be an experience for a lifetime. And I'm sure, it won't be the first. It won't be the last. It's the first, but I'm sure it won't be the last one.
Was this trip purposely planned in April? Because that's usually when everybody has spring break. Or was that just a coincidence?
I think that was just a coincidence.
Okay. It was meant to be then.
So kind of jumping off to another point, and it's always something that I'm very interested in with like leaders in the field and entrepreneurs is, so you've been in the field for a while, you've seen a lot, you've done a lot. Where would you like to see the field grow? Because we said like, the common deficit is the perception of perfection. Now, what would you like to see growth from? Or where would you like to see the ABA grow to?
I love to see ABA growing and spilling into other things. So the Bible-based ABA, I want to see that growing more. I got a lot of interest from BCBAs that, were, I don't want to say afraid to, but maybe just didn't know it was a thing, didn't know it was something that they could apply. And sometimes families we're serving will bring up things and we're like, oh, I don't know if I can talk about that. I want us to be more open. I think that we started out as a more rigid field, just like most sciences. But I want us to get more open and to spilling into these other areas, spilling into travel, right? I mean, like, what's not behavior? I'm sure we can find some behavior analytic things about travel. I mean, what about self-care? We can pour into that. Burnout, we can pour into traveling. So I want our field to really just be more open. Like, I want us to be, because behavior analysis is everywhere. It's everything. Like, we could be in the tech field, we could be in the Christian field, we can be in so many places. And I want us to be open to those. And I want us as clinicians to not be afraid to try something different, try something new.
I think it's not just our field. I think it's just the way that a lot of us are brought up. And I'm sure you can even finish this sentence. It's like, what are the 3 things that you don't talk about with people, right? What is it? Money, politics, and religion. So with that drilled into our generation's brain, it's almost like undoing all of that work that our grandparents and parents had taught us to not bring up in the line of profession. You know what I mean? That you take on. So now that that's kind of getting unraveled and saying like, no, it's okay. It's a safe space. You know what I mean? Like we're trying to integrate culture as much as we can and acceptance as much as we can, regardless of where you come from, what you practice, what you believe. Like you should still be able to incorporate that into your profession. And it is a safe space. So like I said, I really do love that you're incorporating the Bible-based ABA and making that a thing, because it's not right now, to be completely honest. I feel like this is the first time I'm even hearing of it. So I think you're doing amazing work. And
Fantastic.
with that being said, on the other side, kind of like that taboo side, have you ever gotten pushback? And then what did that look like?
Ooh, I have not. I haven't experienced pushback too much. I've had a question like in an interview maybe where it was like, oh, this isn't gonna be, I just want to make sure like we're a science that you're not using this with clients. And I was like, no, well, I don't typically use it with just my clients under a company. I don't typically just bring it up in that format. And so I just explained that, but I haven't really got too much pushback on it. I think I have a lot of questions. It's more questions than pushback.
So, and I think that speaks to the openness of the field, or the starting of the openness, because, maybe even 10 years ago, I would assume there would be immediate pushback to anything that veered slightly off the rails from the classic ABA, to now, instead of misunderstanding, they want to understand and they want to ask questions and figure out like, well, how does that work? What do you exactly practice? How do you incorporate ABA into that? And I think that's beautiful.
Yeah, I think going back to that, I mean, when we're practicing who we are really, because these foundations that we were taught from a young age, like even like the politics and not bringing that up, I think that we're in a generation now where we can be friends with people that have different views and we can hang out with them and we can love them for who they are and we can agree to disagree. And I think growing up like generationally, that wasn't a thing. Like you didn't really hang out with someone who had different political views than you or a different background than you, that didn't have, I don't know, the same parent setup that you had. Like they didn't have that. That wasn't something that was normalized and during that time. But now I'm like, I think that's probably why it's easier for us to be more open to talking about it and to be more authentic in what we believe, because we know like, hey, I can tell this to someone and they might not agree, but that doesn't mean that's not going to change the relationship that we've built. So
I definitely think that's a higher level relationship. I don't think everybody is on that playing field yet, but I think we are
Getting closer.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
that's it. Yeah.
Did you have any final messages or anything that you would like to bring up?
I'm excited to see everyone in Dubai. That's like, I just like bring your energy.
Me,
I mean, we could talk
too.
about Dubai for another 2 hours if you'd like.
But you don't have to be a BCBA. If you're in the field, you're in the healthcare education world, you deserve it. That's all I got to say. You deserve it.
I love that. And now where can people find you? I know you mentioned all of your links before, but where can people find you on your different platforms?
So Instagram is my main thing. I think that's the main thing I'm really promoting everything with. That's just how it fell. But yes, my Instagram is Dr. Ria. You can find me there, or Reimagined. And then my LinkedIn is just Dr. Ria Gillespie, I believe, or Dr. Monica Gillespie. That might be more formal on LinkedIn, but I'm gonna drop the link. The link will be on my in my bio for both of them so that you all can press it, kind of look at it, see how many people you're gonna have in your group when you come. I think the more the merrier, really. Like, let's just have fun. And this is like basically a conference with no CEUs.
I love that.
Learning to love yourself and grow cultural wise rather than within the field. So I love that. And we'll link all of that information too in
this video.
in this video. That way people, if they're watching and they want to learn more, or if they want to attend this journey with you to Dubai, they can just click the link and then do so.
All right. Well, thank you, Dr. Ria, for coming on to today's episode of the Gold Standard podcast. We really enjoyed having this discussion with you, and we can't wait to see your Dubai photos come April.
Or join you.
And join. You gotta be in the photos.
Yes.
Yes, thank you for having me. It's been my pleasure. I love the work that you all are doing. Seriously.
Thank
you.
Likewise.